Signal V9 arrived before the receiver heard it. Transmission from beyond. Arrival before departure starts in listening post 7, not in a legend. Operator Mara is doing a job that should be boring, and a warm receiver dial makes the first normal sentence impossible. At listening post 7, routine still exists. The overnight job is routine. Log the static, clear the drift, drink bad coffee. Operator Mara keeps a warm receiver dial near the work light, while the receiver log waits under one clipped corner. Mara keeps one hand on one nearby tag, because people trust routine longer than they should. Green wave from light crawls over the desk like water. The operator wants to mark the signal as instrument lag. The captain asks if the voice said Mara's name, and Mara lies. For a few seconds, the practical answer still has a chance. Someone checks the latch, the clock, or the dead channel, and that ordinary check comes back wrong. The argument becomes physical. Mara turns the receiver down, and the dial turns itself back up. The night operator jokes about ghosts, then takes the joke back. The first useful change is not a theory. The log prints the reply before Mara speaks. The station captain closes one record and keeps one hand over the page. Writing it down would make it harder to undo. The night listener makes the kind of choice people defend later. She answers the call before filing the warning. The night operator pays first. The recorder catches a second breath in an empty chair. The operator holds one hand against the table. The result is already in the room. The station captain tries to make the moment sound procedural. It does not work. Warm dial does not move. The room around it changes because the signal is not arriving from far away. It is learning the room. The old label stays on one record, and the console operator has to carry it anyway. From there, the night watch now has to live inside the Rasu LT. The second operator jokes about ghosts, then takes the joke back. Nobody gets a speech. They get the log prints the reply before Mara speaks. The captain tries the ordinary fix for ascent. It is a good instinct, and it fails in a visible way. The late operator jokes about ghosts, then takes the joke back. The failed fix leaves the receiver log more dangerous than receiver dial. After the argument, Mara counts the lamps still working above the console. The receiver lamp holds. The tape lamp holds. The person beside it does not. The station chief steps back, then stops pretending the setback is only procedural. The operator sets one log sheet beside the receiver. Green light crosses the timestamp. Watch captain lowers both hands before the waveform changes again. By contrast, the operator watches the pencil roll toward the speaker. The magnetic tape vault looks manageable at first. The vault has numbered reels, dry air, and a sign about clean hands. A torn magnetic strip stays on the table, close to the tape archivist, while the tape transcript sits beside the nearest hand. The tape archivist checks one name under the lamp. The ordinary motion gives everyone one more second. Magnetic dust sticks to Mara's fingertips. The archivist wants to destroy the reel before it learns another voice. Mara blocks the shredder because the tape has the rescue coordinates. No one panics yet. That would make the problem official. The archivist snaps one reel by hand. The archivist, sorry to the machine, and hates herself for it. Room answers with a practical change. The broken reel keeps turning inside the cabinet. Mara slides one page flat and keeps two fingers on it. The tape clerk chooses the practical lie. Mara keeps the torn strip in her sleeve. The cost reaches the archivist before the report can soften it. The tape loses the first scream and keeps the pause before it. Under pressure, the archivist grips one rail. The result is already where everyone can see it. Mara reaches for the safest label. Torn magnetic strip keeps its place, but the old explanation fails. Damage does not silence the signal, teaches the signal where pain is. The old word stays on the page, and the reel keeper has to walk it forward. Vault clerk tries to undo the harm by returning to ordinary procedure. The procedure refuses to help. Past midnight, the tape transcript records the cost anyway. The tape loses the first scream and keeps the pause before it. Across the margin, the archivist has a reason to hide the next detail. That is the human part. The choice is not madness, it is pressure, and the broken reel keeps turning inside the cabinet, and the pressure becomes public, nearer the source. The archivist asks for coffee, and nobody answers quickly enough. That pause matters more than our explanation. Behind that, the tape clerk carries the paper cup over by hand, sets it down, and watches the signal make the kindness feel late. The reel keeper pulls one tape loop from the reel, sticks to the edge. Mara steps closer, then stops. Machine starts before anyone touches it. The first minute inside the rescue ship is almost dull. The checklist is written for fire, vacuum, and panic. It is not written for recognition. Rescue pilot, leave a sealed packet card where everyone can see it, and the rescue checklist stays visible on the table. Rescue pilot sets one page beside the light, and nobody moves it. Static crackles through the ship hull like frozen. The pilot wants to launch before the signal moves again. Medic refuses to board. After the beacon speaks from inside the ship, everyone gives the ordinary explanation. One last second, the pilot straps the packet card to the throttle. The medic stays on the gantry with both hands over her mouth. After that, the record has a new shape. The empty seat records a heartbeat. Quietly, the station medic folds one sheet and traps it under one palm. Rescue lead takes the option that can still be explained to board. He launches with one seat empty. That decision hurts the station medic first, and the rescue path becomes part of the broadcast. The medic sets one cup down without drinking. Result has reached them first. The gantry medic tries to shrink the damage into paperwork. Nobody has to decorate the moment. A sealed packet card now means this. The beacon was not calling for rescue. It was rehearsing the rescue. The old name stays under the clip, but the launch pilot can no longer trust it. The ship medic keeps moving, because stopping would become an answer. After that, the beacon was not calling for rescue. It was rehearsing the rescue. The rescue ship gives them one quiet minute. Someone checks a latch, a switch, a seal, or a timestamp. The check should end the argument. Instead, the rescue path becomes part of the broadcast. The mistake is practical. The empty seat pilot flips the breaker before the tape finishes. The post medic notices, reaches for the switch, and leaves their hand there too long. The medic grips the console with both hands. Static crawls under the switch plate. The pilot cuts one breaker, and the room stays lit. The gantry medic reads the dark panel twice. The antenna field gives them a normal surface to hold on to. The field is all bolts, ladders, red mud, and wind. The antenna report rests where nobody can pretend not to see it, while the relay technician keeps one hand near a cracked antenna fuse. Relay technician counts 3 marks on one tag, then stops trusting the count. Rain hisses on the warm fuse and smells like pennies. The technician wants to cut the field before every dish turns inward. The pilot orders him to keep the signal alive until the ship clears range. The quiet does not feel supernatural. It feels administrative. The technician pulls the cracked fuse with bare fingers. The pilot screams over comms once, and the scream loops under the carrier tone. Proof stops being decorative when every dish turns toward Mara's empty chair. Rescue lead presses one hand over the line. Nobody wants read aloud. Relay tech picks the answer that protects procedure first, and he kills the exterior relay and traps the signal in the station. The result is immediate for the launch pilot. The antenna report points at the room instead of the sky. The empty seat pilot puts one palm on the glass. The result is already behind it. The pilot says the official sentence first, and the evidence is plain enough to hurt. Distance has stopped being part of the problem. The category sits on the paper, while the field technician carries the cost past it. When they leave the antenna field, the route forward is narrower. The dish report is still visible. A cracked antenna fuse is still closed, and the rescue lead has paid first. The launch pilot understands the cost before the senior people do. Nobody calls it revelation. They are too busy deciding who has to touch an antenna fuse next. Nobody has a speech ready. The empty seat pilot untangles one headset cord and keeps looking at the floor. Field tech lowers their voice because quiet is easier to survive than certainty. The technician pushes one paper cup across the desk. The pilot does not drink. Headset slides when the receiver wore MS. The rescue lead answers with a mouth that will not stay dry. Nothing in the acoustic booth announces itself as history. The booth door is padded, heavy, and supposed to make silence measurable. A dead headset remains the only thing nobody wants to move, while the breath isolation file lies flat in the working light. The post lead steadies one hand on the desk. Routine holds for another breath. The foam smells of dust, sweat, and old electricity. The captain wants to prove Mara is contaminating the sample. Mara begs him to open the booth, captain refuses, after the voice uses her mother's voice. The sensible answer is still alive, barely. Mara pulls the headset off and leaves it moving on the desk. Mara checks her own hands first, because shaking would make the captain right. What matters is the change left behind. The file records a breath from behind the wall. Mara moves one chair back and keeps the page in reach. The station chief does not mean to hurt anyone. The captain keeps recording instead of opening the door. By the time anyone argues motive, Mara is already carrying the cost. The dead channel learns the operator before she answers. Mara watches one light change. The result no longer needs permission. Mara tries to keep the problem inside the form. The dead headset becomes harder to touch after that because the booth does not contain the signal. It gives the signal a mouth. The old label stays under the station captain's hand until the hand moves for ascent. The detail is small enough to miss until someone tries to leave. In the file records a breath from behind the wall. The breath isolation file changes the room's behavior, not just the theory. Watch captain moves from the doorway to the table, and Mara moves back. That small movement tells the truth before anyone says it. For a while, the work becomes ugly and small. Someone labels a reel. Someone checks a fuse. The post lead presses a thumb against the console edge until the skin goes pale. The captain carries the fuse to the relay shelf. Green dust marks her sleeve. Mara orders silence. Mara drops the report on the floor instead. The final listening chair starts with work, not revelation. The final chair is ordinary office furniture, which makes it worse. Night listener works around a cold microphone grill because the final carrier tone remains close enough to read. The console operator keeps one thumb on the form until the paper bends. The microphone grill warms under her palm. Mara wants to stop answering and leave the room ignorant. The channel offers the rescue craft back if she says her name clearly. Nobody wants to be first to name the wrongness. Mara puts one hand over the microphone and one hand on the door latch. He does it because guilt is faster than courage. The event becomes usable evidence when the receiver cuts power. But the dead channel answers again. The dead channel pins one corner down until the paper stops shaking. The operator makes one useful mistake. He says the rescue pilot's name instead of her own. What follows is not symbolic for the launch pilot. The final broadcast turns listening into the event. The empty seat pilot keeps both feet still. The result moves anyway. The dead channel wants the report to sound calmer than the room. The category breaks quietly around a cold microphone grill. The signal was not a warning from the disaster. It was the disaster learning how to speak. The old word remains on the form, and the night listener has to sign around it. Decision is not bigger. It is meaner. The console operator can protect the report or protect the pilot. And the room has already made both choices expensive. The rescue lead reaches for microphone grill as if it is only evidence. It is heavier than the story anyone wants to tell. At the time the receiver cuts power, but the dead channel answers again. The old version of events is no longer usable. The dead channel tries to file the first accept a log. Mara blocks the console, not dramatically, just enough to make the lie wait beside the tape. The operator presses one palm over the microphone grill. The dead channel reaches for the switch. Launch pilot blocks it with both hands. The lamp goes red behind them. The station chief asks for one more check because fear sounds better in procedural language. The night listener allows it. The result is worse because the signal is not arriving from far away. It is learning the room. The console operator sets one log sheet beside the receiver. The night watch watches the pencil roll toward the speaker. Junior technician drops a pencil and apologizes as if that is the problem. Second operator kneels to pick it up, then stays there because standing would make the next call real. Another object will not change anyone. Consequence will. The tape loses the first scream and keeps the pause before it. The archivist reacts first, and that reaction changes what everyone else is allowed to deny. The vault clerk pulls one tape loop from the reel. The empty seat pilot holds the table edge, while the ship medic reads the line again. Nobody is enlightened by it. They just understand who is to stay in the launch craft when the door closes. The post medic grips the console with both hands. The medic reads the dark panel twice. After the argument, the rescue lead counts the lamps still working above the console. The gantry medic steps back, then stops pretending the setback is only procedural. Launch pilot steps away from a cracked fuse and still cannot leave it behind. Relay tech places the field report under the lamp, and the ordinary room stops feeling available. The field technician pushes one paper cup across the desk. The empty seat pilot does not drink. The pilot answers with a mouth that will not stay dry. Mara pulls the nearest chair back without sitting down. That tiny retreat matters, gives the post lead enough space to make the wrong, useful choice. The station chief flips the breaker before the tape finishes. Mara notices, reaches for the switch, and leaves their hand there too long. Mara opens the folder, closes it, and opens it again. The second look is worse because the receiver cuts power, but the dead channel answers again. Rescue lead blocks it with both hands. Late operator touches a dial with 2 fingers, then wipes those fingers on their sleeve. The gesture is small. It is also the first honest vote in the room. The night listener sets one log sheet beside the receiver. The console operator presses a thumb against the console edge until the skin goes pale. Mara sets the tape transcript beside a torn magnetic strip and tries to keep both hands flat. The flat hands are a lie. Everyone sees it. The archivist pulls one tape loop from the reel. The final image is simple. Mara remains in the final listening chair with a cold grill